Welcome to our first episode of our staff podcast series on feedback. Today we're joined by Georgina Stevens.
Hi.
Now, George, just as a disclaimer, do you think it's fair to say that we're not positioning ourselves as experts, nor are we going to try and prescribe how to teach?
Oh, 100%. We're definitely not the experts. We're just here to discuss, reflect, debate even. It's just an opportunity to discuss lots of ideas.
Okay, great. I thought today we could try and debunk some myths about feedback. So let's start with myth 1. Individual feedback is the most effective.
Okay, I'm definitely on the surface here going to have to disagree with this one. Like, how is individual feedback not the most effective?
Yeah, that's the intuition. But in practice, we have to think that nothing exists in isolation. So a teacher's time and capacity is limited. So any kind of individualized marking that we're going to give is going to be at the expense of other strategies that might work better.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
So for example, I could spend an hour individually marking work, or I could read through all the answers in 20 minutes, spend 10 minutes thinking of next steps for the class, 10 minutes planning my questions and my explanation, and then another 20 minutes improving my resources for the next time that I teach it. And I'd argue that that's probably going to have more of an impact.
Yeah, no, I totally see what you're saying. And when you talk about is the most effective, actually, is that the most effective use of teacher time sometimes, that they don't always need that one-to-one individual feedback. But I would say that you can balance that out with live marking, and that live feedback is actually the best type of feedback to give, because you can, a way that we do it often in English is having like a really specific focus. So it's a really nice opportunity to go round and give feedback on the spot, live in the moment, to help students improve individually. So you get that balance of both types of feedback.
Yeah, totally agree. But how do you make sure that you're not pigeonholing feedback if you have a focus? So you're just giving a comment because you've decided, oh, that's the thing that I'm looking for.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's quite nice to have a focus, but I think it's the same thing of always with teaching, that you just have to be flexible. There's no way you can just only give feedback for that one thing if you spot other things. I think often you will see a pattern amongst the class, and then you might need to even pause, and then there's your opportunity for whole class feedback. You've seen some individuals, but now you're giving whole class feedback. But I would say you definitely can't just give feedback for one thing if you're seeing other things. You've got to be flexible with who you're giving feedback to, how it's being given, and what your focus is.
Yeah, I like that. So it's kind of like you have a principle that you're following.
Yeah.
Teacher judgment's important.
Yeah. How do you use live feedback?
I've been trying to think of it as like a hierarchy. So you're trying to look for the highest leverage step for that student. So the first point of call for feedback is like something on broad conceptual understanding. And then if that's solid, then you can think about accuracy of what they're explaining or writing. And then if that's solid, then you can go for something that polishes their work. So like how to write more concisely or how to streamline a calculation. So just trying to keep that feedback as intentional as possible.
Yeah, and I think something that works well with that is if you do see somebody who's got to that next step or that next level, you can again pause the lesson and maybe bring it up to the visualizer and show the whole class where they need to get to together. And then that's kind of, again, whole class feedback that actually could move a lot of students on, rather than you having to go to each individual pupil and mark their work individually.
Yeah, I really like that. So I guess we're kind of saying that being responsive to what's happening is super important.
Yeah, and that's the most effective for them, but also for teacher workload, like you said at the beginning.
Okay, great. Really nice to talk through those two with you. If you could give people one takeaway or addition to what we've spoken about, what would it be?
I've kind of said it, but I think the best is a balance. And if you are walking around the class and you're giving live feedback, you can always pause and give whole class feedback and actually stop and reteach something or use a student's work and give whole class feedback, and then even sort of pause what they're doing and in the moment say, right, everyone do this now, and do a little, even on mini whiteboards and things like that, and then be like, right, now carry on writing. Like it's a process, and you can use that time to reflect for yourself of what you need to feedback on in the moment.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a really great takeaway. And the idea that like nothing in teaching is rigid in that way. Like we have these broad principles, but our judgment should always shape what we're actually doing in the classroom.
Yeah, lovely.
Great. Thank you for joining today, George. I'm just going to close by stating every teacher, regardless of experience, has something valuable to contribute. This platform aims to include as many voices as possible. So if you would like to get involved or share your experiences, please contact a member of the Learning and Teaching team.
Brilliant.